Hello and welcome to the 2025 Season 4 Week 6 track guide by Team Conti Sim Performance. Michael Conti here with the NASCAR NextGen car at Martinsville Speedway. We have 2 races left in the regular season with this week coming up. So 2025 season is coming to a close. I know a lot of you are going for championships and things, so I'm going to do a nice little quick track guide this week. Not a whole lot's changed at Martinsville since our last track guide earlier this year, so wanted to do this one a bit differently. So I'm here with some AI friends and really going to go over not just how to drive around the track by yourself, but maybe some tips and tricks on how to navigate traffic and set up passes and be as efficient as possible. Typically these races are caution riddled, but I think if you're in a league or if you catch a good A Open or NIS, there's some opportunities for longer runs and passing opens up then. So anyway, without further ado, going to get on track. Going to do like 10 to 20 laps depending on how the AI is working, and I'll just kind of go over what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, hop out of the car at the end, give a little bit of a different perspective on what's going on, and then hopefully close this one out. So here we go. The biggest thing at Martinsville is really just about being as efficient as possible. You know, it's one thing to drive around here by yourself, very different when you've got cars around you, and that's why I really wanted to come out here today and get in traffic and just show you all how to race, not just make laps. So from a driving fundamentals perspective here, shifting at both ends, no way around that, unfortunately. Fourth down the straights, third into the corners, pretty early shift down to third to utilize that engine braking. Lot of sustained brake into and through the center, and then just do your best to put the power down as straight as possible on corner exit. Takes a few laps for tires to come up to temperature, as you saw there off of 2, and even right there, just a little sketchy on throttle, but that'll correct itself. Watch how much entry speed you're carrying at both ends. It's easy to get the thing nosed over and it'll make the rear really light. So nice and straight on entry. Be disciplined with your entry speed, but also don't be too passive, right? You got to carry speed, you got to get in there as hard as possible, but don't go over the edge. Very, very difficult. As you can see here, we've got 2 AI cars running side by side, and you're going to see this a lot in your races. More times than not, that bottom is going to prevail, but sometimes later in these races or even restarts, you can make that top work pretty well. So I'll get behind Brad here. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to run up on him at a bad place. So right there, he opened up the bottom, easily able to roll around the curve and get by him. But in a race, everybody's going to cover that bottom. So the question is, if everybody's rolling around the bottom within a tenth or two of one another, you know, how do I set up a pass? And that's all about how you shape the corner. So if Chase has any type of speed here in front of me, we'll try to demonstrate that. When I say set up the corner, that means, you know, how can I back up my center so that I get back on the throttle at a different point, maybe at a different angle, to generate momentum off the corner so I can get to his inside into the next turn. So right there, I overslowed my center just a little bit more so I could make sure that as he drifts up on exit, I can cut below him. If I throttle up at my typical point and track out at my typical point, I'm just going to be right behind him on exit, and I'm not going to have that ability to turn below him and set up the pass. So a little bit of clean track now. Back to just driving normally, wrapping the curb. Not pushing the entry zones 10/10ths. Also not pushing the acceleration zones on exit 10/10ths. Just trying to keep a little bit below the limit. Tires aren't going to be a huge deal this week, but they are wearing more than they did in the spring with the new tire model that we've got on this car since then, so just don't want to make them mad if you can help it. Not a whole lot of fall off in 30 laps. I was maybe falling off 3-4 tenths at most if I really pushed it. But overall, it's going to be a pretty all-out race in the sense that what you've got for speed is what you've got. I don't think there's going to be a lot of disparity in lap times over the course of the run. Like, I think everybody's going to be pretty tightly packed together, so track position is going to be key, and then again, just understanding how to pass, really, really important. So I'll try to get up to this train of AI so we could do a little bit more racing before I bring this thing down pit road. Little off the curb there, you could see I had to correct as I rolled into the center. It's just a little bit too early, rolling off the brakes. Much better right there. I think our tighter setup this week is going to be a viable option as well, especially if we're thinking we're just going to get a bunch of short runs. That thing might fire off a little bit better, might be a bit more secure. I think our benchmark would be better longer run, but how many long runs are we going to get? So kind of have to take your best guess at that, feel it out. Yeah, they're not too much different from one another, but tighter is definitely going to be a little bit more secure as you roll into the center. So we've got the train of AI in front of us. Try to set up some good passes here. Some people pitting. There we go. Back down to the bottom. 3 and 4 is a little bit of a tighter turn, so you just have to slow it up a bit more than 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is more of a sweeper. And we'll clear, I believe that's Reddick right there in the 8. We're a little bit outdated on the AI. So right here I've got Harvick in front of me, back up my center, and then power down, cut below him. Now I've got position into 3. Wrap the curb, clear up. Will your passes be this easy in a race? Absolutely not, but I think you should understand the general idea here. I'm going to try to generate some momentum on this 3 and 5 battle, so I'm going to enter 3 a little bit higher. And I'm going to cut it down on exit, lots of throttle, big time gain. Now what do? I can try to do the same thing here again. Larson's really slow in the center. Right there. Clear him with a big run on the 3. 3 overdrove entry. It's a little slow on exit. Pull to the bottom. And outbrake him into 1. All of your passes are going to be made, or at least are going to probably start in that braking zone. Maybe 75%. The other 25% are going to be from really good exits to where you can start it off of a corner and then continue it into the next corner. So I think those are some pretty good laps right there. I'll bring this thing in. We'll hop outside the car. Just take a quick look at what I was doing. And then that'll be it for this week. Nice and short, nice and simple. All right. Okay, so let's go to a clean lap first. Just show how I'm getting around this place, and then we'll get into some traffic management. So that shift from 3rd to 4th down the front stretch. Past the start-finish line, still wide open. And then right at the beginning of the Coke signage in this NASCAR Premier Partners banner, you're going to start lifting and braking immediately. Brake, brake, heavy brake. And, it's probably 60-ish% peak brake pressure. There's a little bit of oscillation as I go to hit my peak pressure. I come off of it just a bit, back on it. But overall, about 60% average peak brake pressure. There's that downshift early, down to 3rd, and then I slowly start to trail off the brake. And I have to make sure that I'm not still at my 60% brake as I go from straightaway to turn, because if I have that much brake pressure in it, as the car lands into the corner, I'm probably going to lock up that left front. So that's why not only is it important to trail off brake just to make sure that you maintain good entry speed, it's almost a necessity to do that, because if you have too much brake over this transition, you're going to lock a front tire and you're going to go up the track. Conversely, if you let off the brake too early and you roll in here with too much speed, more so 3 and 4, but somewhat 1 and 2 as well, that's when the car is going to get on the nose a bit, make the rear light, and make it feel like it wants to step out. So if you get down into the center and you feel like the thing just wants to snap, you're probably letting off the brake too early and or carrying too much speed into the corner. If you're locking up a tire, that means that you're sustaining too much peak brake pressure. You need to come off of that, especially before you get to this transition from asphalt to concrete. So anyway, at the transition here, about 25-30% brake, give or take. And the biggest thing is I'm already almost to the bottom. A lot of people have a bad habit of really trying to swing into the corner, wide arc, big sweeping entry. And that puts them at a huge angle as they go over this transition. That's also a great way to lock up a tire. But then also, if you've got all this angle, you're just giving up speed. There's no need for that. You're using too much track, and you're just going to lose time. You're also going to open yourself up to people bombing it in on the bottom and trying to pass you. So this nice, straight, I call it linear. It's just a one motion off the wall, straight shot down to the curb. That's what you're going to want to do in a perfect world. Again, you got traffic around you, maybe a rubbered in worn track. You might change it up a bit, but overall, stick to this method and it should treat you pretty well. So down into the corner, continuously trailing off brake and starting to introduce even more wheel as I approach the apex. Biggest thing at Martinsville is to not be afraid to turn the wheel at the center. Worked with so many people over the years, and they get down to the center and they just, they kind of have their wheel at, I don't know, 30, 40 degrees, and they don't crank any more wheel. You have to crank more wheel in the center. You're going so slow. You're going 70-ish miles an hour by the time you get to the center. You can crank on that wheel, and you're not going to slide the fronts because you're going so slow. Use that massive tire we've got in the NextGen. Crank that wheel, wrap the curb, and then the more that you do that earlier in the corner, the sooner you'll be able to start throttling up and then unwinding that wheel on exit. But if you're too tentative with the wheel input entry to center, you're going to be offline by the center, you're going to be all out of sorts, and you're not going to be able to make any time off the corner. So, moral of the story, as you get down to your min roll speed in the center, don't be afraid to turn that wheel. Give it a little berth in the center here as far as where I'm at versus the curb. I'm not like scraping my left front along it. Just a very small diamond as I let the car naturally come up. But then we bring it back down on exit and start driving back down toward the curb before I straight shot it up off of 2 and get to the wall. See a little correction right there on low tire pressure, but overall it's a pretty good corner. Again, 60% peak brake pressure, early downshift. Little berth off the curb, back down, and then straight shot up off. Watch that throttle input on exit. Very easy to spin a tire. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into turn 3. Lifting fairly early. 3 and 4 is the sharper end of the track, so you don't want to overshoot because you'll quickly get up off the curb or swing the back around. So pretty early lift. I can't really give you any markers because we don't have any, unfortunately. But I mean, it feels like it's maybe 70% of the way down the back. Well before this caution light, I can tell you that. Maybe 3-4 car lengths before the caution light. Same approach as turn 1, really, about 50-60% peak brake pressure, early downshift to the curb. A little bit of a trail up off the curb as I release the brake and free roll center. Big tug of wheel in the center to get it turned back down. And then a nice straight exit off of 4. A couple laps at speed here, at least one lap. Get up to the back of the AI and then talk about how to make passes. Make sure you're nice and tight to that wall down the straightaway so you can maximize your angle of attack off of it. Okay, so talking about traffic management. So here we go. We've got 2 cars side by side in front of me here, and you'll see this a lot in your races for sure. What I can do is I've got two options. I can assume that Brad will roll the bottom around Blaney and follow him through, or if I want to think 3 steps ahead, probably not from this far back, but if I was like a car length closer, I could go in, kind of in the middle, really slow my center down, and then just throttle up on exit and try to get to the bottom of the 6 down the back and take them 3 into 3. Now, 3 wide at Martinsville, often frowned upon, would not really recommend it in open races unless you really can trust the people around you. So take what I'm saying there with a grain of salt. I think the better approach is to just follow the car around on the bottom, get past the 12, and then set the 6 up, which is eventually what I do. But if it's the end of the race, or if you really feel confident in yourself and the people around you, and you can use that middle, slow the center, cut down on exit, and generate enough momentum, more than likely to get to the bottom and take it 3 into the next corner. So 2 options there, one much safer than the other. That's the approach I take here. So pass the 12, roll around the bottom, and then Brad blows 3 and 4. I don't have enough momentum to try to make a pass into 1. He opens up the bottom, I roll around, and clear him into 3. And nice and disciplined on the bottom here. Have to respect that there's a car above me, so can't throw it in and slide way up. Chase down Chase here for a lap or 2. Nice corner right there. I can see his weakness is exit. It's pretty slow getting up the track, so I'll keep that in mind as I set up a pass here. And then right there, that is really, really, really a clean pass at Martinsville on a slower car. So you can see here, I slow down the center just a little bit more. I mean, it's not too much. We're talking like maybe a few mile an hour. And what that allows me to do is, instead of rolling up to his bumper and being in a position where I can't do anything with him but just follow him, by slowing down the center, that gives me a runway to then start throttling up on exit and cutting down while he's tracking out to then get position down the backstretch. Let's go far chase here for this one. Cut it down and make the pass. And clear. Play this a few laps forward. Just one shot at the end here where I make that middle entry exit cut down thing kind of work. Yeah, it's with the 8 and the 5 here. So right here, I'm pretty far back, so more than likely can't generate enough momentum to actually make the pass by setting up my entry that way, but at least I can start to build momentum and also to understand what kind of grip I have as I change my approach. So going into 3 here, I'm not even going to try to get to the curb. I'm going to go to the middle, slow it down, big throttle up off, and you can see I'm just gaining, gaining, gaining. Now what do I do here? I'm going to try to do it again. The 5 is slow, so I cut down, clear him. Now we've got the 3. Slow up my center, throttle up on exit, just enough momentum to swing to the inside and make the pass. So moral of the story with traffic management is just make sure you're doing things in such a way that you're not getting boxed in behind people. That is not always going to be possible. You're going to have cars all over the place, and you're not always going to have the opportunity to open up your entries or slow down your centers like I was doing here, since I had plenty of space around me. But overall, though, you do what you can to create a little bit of a buffer so you can be flexible in what you do in the center and exit to then attempt to make a pass in the next set of corners. Aside from that, like we talked about, shifting at both ends, that is a necessity. So make sure you're comfortable with your shifting this week. Not a whole lot of fall off, so I could see staying out being a viable option. 2 tires, really anything but 4 I think would be good, since track position is going to be so huge here. And then last but not least, just start up front, try to stay ahead of the chaos, keep your car clean, keep your emotions in check. And if you do all of that, you should have a great car this week. We've been really good here in the past, so hopefully we can have a really nice week and go into Phoenix with some great momentum. Other than that, that should cover us. Thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate your support of the channel and TCSP, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time as we close out the NASCAR season at Phoenix. See you guys.